My. Family, every time I hear those four chords played, I am slayed. So good morning. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to my family, Mishpachah, wherever you might be. Some of you are in different time zones around the world and here in the States. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you. And thank you for being here and hanging out. I just want to talk about a couple of things this morning. But before we do, let's do something. And since you know this is our typical stance, let's just do this and get it out of the way because this is what we do. There's a thing called fair use. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, and exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. And it is allowed for the purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, parody, which doesn't infringe on the copyright under that section right there. Now, we're not doing this for any criticism, and we're certainly not making fun of anyone. We're just trying to teach and to bring some knowledge to the family and uphold the family and just do our part. It may not be much, but for some, it's just enough. And for the people that we are using portions of their work, I want to thank you. And I hope you don't slam us too hard for using your work. We certainly are trying to promote what you're doing. And we're trying to teach. Not in this for fame, not in this for fortune, not asking anybody for money. I don't really care how many likes and how many clicks we get. This is going to be for someone, whomever it be. So, Father, in the name of Yeshua, we ask you to go forth and bless the word as it comes forth. And may it be the right word for the right person at the right time. We just thank you for that. And I want to get into something else here, because I have just been doing this thing with the Kai Yeshua, his word, and doing his word. Let's see, where did I put it? I thought I had it right there. And this is really, I'm really getting into this, and I'm liking the fact that they've made this so available that we can get into this and see, and use this and utilize it. Because I tell you, the more I use this, the more I'm loving it. And I really want to get to the point where I'm hoping that Kai will come along and bring the Hebrew classes. There are some videos up where Jediah is teaching, and but I want a little bit more, like, how the alphabet breaks down, and he uses certain things. He shows you where the vowel points are and all that good stuff. And I may even need to go to someone and sit with them and get some one-on-one. But with the way that he's teaching and you're able to hear, how the words are pronounced and how they're put together. And it's really, when you do this stuff and you're coming at it from an older age, like me, I'm starting from scratch, and it's, it's a little hard to grasp. It's like, where is it? It's like, it was almost like when I went for this piano here, and I told the father I wanted to learn this piano, and I couldn't figure out where the top, the bottom, the middle, or whatever was. It was like, the only way I can know this thing is if you give it to me. So I'm going to have to go at it from that level, as well as having an adequate teacher. I'm going to listen very carefully and go over and over these videos that Kai Yeshua has out there and try to get this under our belt, because this is something that we really need. And as I was saying last week, every time I read this, I'm broken. I can't read the lettering, and I listen quite often as they say the Lord's Prayer, and I say it along with them. Tefillah Yehovah, I say it along with them, so I can get used to pronouncing the words at least. Even if I can't read them, I can get used to pronouncing them. But as I was saying before, when you read it, it's completely different. Listen, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Let come your kingdom. Let come your kingdom let come your kingdom. Let be done your will, according as is in heaven, so also on earth. Give to us bread we need today, and forgive us our debts as also we forgive our debtors. And don't lead us to hands of temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Because yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Okay? Listen to what's being said. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Let come your kingdom. Let be done your will, according as is in heaven, so also on earth. Give to us bread we need today, and forgive us our debts, as also we forgive our debtors. And don't lead us to hands of temptation, but deliver us from the evil one, because yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now, you see how differently that reads than from what we've been traditionally taught? So, just seeing how that reads so differently gives us a whole different understanding. When you read it with understanding of what we were taught that it said in the first place, it gives it more meat. Now, and I love this. I've been hanging out over here, okay, and this is Hebrews. We're going to pull this out of the e-sword though, but I've been hanging out over here, and one thing that I saw, because as I was saying before, I was reading something in First and Second Esdras, and I'm noticing that I've run across this in a couple different places. Now, the one thing that I'm talking, we're gonna get into that in a minute, but here's the thing I'm talking about. Okay, let's go here. See what I got highlighted in yellow there? It's like, let me do this. Let me bring it up big. Okay. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue, and a tongue is just a language, have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. So what he's saying is that when things are in their proper form, in their proper language, you get the force that was meant in them, because it's in its language. It's not transliterated or anything. And if you read that language, then you understand exactly what's being said, and not what someone is trying to say to you because they're trying to explain it to you. And that's what we get when we deal with these scriptures. We get someone else's explanation. Now, a lot of this was in Hebrew, but a lot of it was in Greek. And so the 70 who were translating the King James were using Hebrew scriptures and Greek translations, and they did the best they could with what they had. But they didn't have the full thing. They had at best a copy of a copy of a copy. And so some stuff was lost. And it wasn't until we got the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Masoretic footnotes that helped us understand the errors that were in that book. I mean, they did the best they could, but they did make errors. And that was the translators who were making innocent errors. But there were some people on the scene, some scribes who were blatantly changing some things also. And so there was a reason why we see that if anything is changed, one jot, one tittle, that there's going to be a punishment for that. There's a reason, because the Most High knew that there was going to be this enemy driven by an evil spirit to try to change the word so that we would not know who we were. I mean, because listen, the agenda was to erase Israel and get Israel so far erased that it was no more remembered. So much so to the fact that we wouldn't remember ourselves. So when you lose your language and you lose your culture and your heritage, then, you know, after a few generations, it's gone. Okay? And then if you don't remember who you are, then it's difficult for you to come back to it. During the period of slavery, when they were first bringing some slaves over here, we have a brother, Benai Israel, who has a video on this talking about the Inquisition, and where the scripture says that you will see your children go into captivity. He was showing you actually in the video, because this happened in Spain and in Portugal. They literally yanked the children out of the mother's hands and sent the children away into slavery, into bondage. Now the parents themselves were also in bondage, but they separated the parents from the children. This way the parent can't teach the child who the child is. The child grows up thinking, you know, or being taught and indoctrinated something else, and then that's what they teach that child that's born in captivity. And then when that child has a child in captivity, it's taught that thing that its parents learned. So now you've got 3 generations going down the line, and all they know is what they've been taught. Same thing with the Khazar Jews over in Israel. Listen, those people think they're Jews, rightly so, because they've been taught by their mother, their father, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their great-great-grandparents, their great-great-great-grandparents that they're Jews. They don't know that their great-great-great-great-great-grandfather converted. They weren't taught that their the fourth grandfather before them converted. They weren't taught that. They were taught, born, that they were Jews. So that's all they know. And for some reason, they can't figure out that the entire nation is a nation of Jews. Where's the other 11 tribes? Okay, they all can't be Judah. But that's not why we're here. Okay, I'm just saying that the things that are written in the original languages can really be understood in the original language if it's not translated into another tongue. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force or power in them. And that's what we were talking about last week, okay? So I wanted to talk about that, but I also wanted to go into something else. And basically, we've spoken about that. That's the reason why, you know, I'm touting to you now that we should learn Hebrew of a form or fashion as best we can, so we can read the Hebrew, and this way we can understand what's being said on the pages that lay before us in Hebrew, as opposed to reading something that's been translated and mostly transliterated into another tongue. English is a tongue, a language. It's not Hebrew. You can't take that Hebrew book and trust what you're reading in English to be the full word. It's close, but there's some things that have changed. And when you put back what was taken away, it changes. The force changes. The whole understanding changes. I was having a discussion with someone today, And this person railed on me deeply for simply trying to say what I just said to you, that the word has been touched. Now the Father is true to his word, and the majority of it is there. And if you have the desire and you have the fortitude, your spirit is really right, and you want to know this, he's got, it's about relationship. Now, even though you might have a book that's not fully fortified with the truth, the very fact that you're seeking, he's going to meet you there. His Ruach is going to meet you there. And his Ruach is going to give you the places, or fill in those places where things are missing. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten revelation when I was like, oh, that's what that means? Because that's not what the word said, but because I was stuck there trying to figure it out, the Spirit of the Most High God came along and said, let me give you some help with that. And that's what he does with us. When you really want to know, I mean, you have to pick this book up and be like the Bereans. You got to search the scriptures. Now, I have to tell you, I don't search it as much as I used to, because I don't have the time anymore to do it that way, and I kick myself every day because I know I need to put in more time. I have to pick my battles. I have little things to do here, little things to do there. I got an elderly mom, so I can't. When I was young, when I didn't have anything to do and I just had a job and nothing else going on, I could spend hours in this word, but I have to keep my ears open and watch the dogs and watch mama and listen for packages coming and try to do this little thing I'm doing here and go to work, and there's a lot more that goes on in a day now. But I have teachers going on in my ears. I keep my earbuds in and I have teachers going on in my ears, and Kayeshua, Jediah, those guys, they're my teachers also. I listen to them quite often. And then when I have the opportunity, I sit down here and I dig into my scriptures. Like now, I'm finding these things and coming out here just to talk to you because it's Shabbat. And what we're supposed to do is to meditate on our word and get into our word. And it's Shabbat. And so I was digging around and reading some things, and I stumbled across this. Well, not necessarily stumbled across it. The Father brought it across my path again. And so, oh my, I didn't know that had happened. Let me do this. I have the His Word Scriptures open over here on my tablet. And I just fixed the laptop today, so I normally use the laptop for the drum processor, but it'll be coming over here so I can work more with it and have my books open. Right now I have everything up on screens. But I wanted to say that in this, learning and knowing things in our language, in the tongue of our forefathers, is going to help us in the long run. Because now we'll be able to get to see where the enemy is changing the word in order to change our thoughts and our behavior, not only our behavior, but our understanding of the word that is ours. Because there's a people out there that is usurping the authority of the house of Israel. Okay, and they're practicing the practices of the Most High. And I have something that I'm putting together on this, but this is something that I'm looking at. You notice how and then I'm going to say this, and then we'll get into what my Hebrews here that I was reading, and I'll talk to you about that. But you notice how there's a group of people who will go to salons and tan their skin. They'll curl their hair. They'll walk like us. They'll talk like us. They'll do everything that we do. But then they'll turn around and use the N-word on us. But you're trying to be me. But you're not an N-word. But you're doing everything I do. You're dressing like I dress. You're curling your hair. You're tanning your skin. But you don't want to be classified. But you want to be Israel. I think that There's a group that thinks that if they figure out our DNA, because there's melanin out there, you can buy melanin for $300-400 an ounce, and darken your skin. I think they think that when the Father comes back, if they do these things, that he'll be coming back for a color, and that he's not smart enough to see the bloodline. That's what it looks like to me, because that's what they're doing, and they're starting to do it in greater numbers. When I was growing up, there was a book about a white guy who took the pigmentation in his skin, and he lived as a man of color for like 30 days or maybe 60 days. The book was called Black Like Me. You can look it up. And he talked about the discrimination that he went through, what it was like living as a black man. Well, there's a lot of people now. Remember the chick who was running the NAACP? They want to be us, and they run around telling everybody that they are us. Okay? In the circles that they run in, they must not be getting a lot of pushback as far as discrimination and what have you. And I'm seeing more women than men, so it looks like that's coming forward. Remember, Get Out. I mean, look where they were grabbing, and look what they were doing. And when he asked the guy, you know, why are you doing this? He said, because black is in. It's in the movie. I saw that movie from a whole different perspective. I didn't see entertainment. I saw from a spiritual perspective, they're trying to be us. Just like those Ashkenazi Jews over there are claiming to be Judah, claiming to be of the house of Judah, and the whole state of Israel is claiming to be Judah. When Israel is supposed to come home, all 12 tribes, the land is going to, you know, the land's supposed to heal itself, but all tribes are going to be home, not just one tribe. And there's supposed to be peace. Only one tribe is there, so supposedly, and all they do is war. So we know that Israel's not home. But they claim that they're us, and every one of them is European. And when somebody of color does show up over there, they treat them very badly. So, just something to think about, okay? I'm in this Hebrews over here. Hebrews 3. I was looking at, yeah, here it is over here. Hebrews 3 and 6. That's my notes over there. Okay. So, but Christ as a son over his own house, whose house we are. If we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end, we're his house. If we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope, if we hold that firm unto the end. Remember in Matthew 24, Yehoshua said, he that endures until the end shall be saved. So here's another witness saying that this confidence that we have, if we hold that and the rejoicing of that hope, if we hold that firm unto the end, we are his house. Hebrews 3:7. Wherefore, as the Ruach saith, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, or don't harden your mind that you can't understand, as in the provocation, in the day of temptation in the wilderness. Okay, so what day of temptation in the wilderness? When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. When they walked out of Mitzrayim, and Moses went up on the mountain, and the people got scared, and we don't know what happened to him, so build us a god. And Aaron says, okay, we'll just break off your gold, and, you know. So what you see, when Aaron told the story, though, I'll read this story, and it trips me out, because Aaron told the story. He said, well, they broke off their gold, and I threw it in the fire, and out came a calf. How does out come a calf? A calf, gold just don't form itself into a calf. An artificer had to form that into a cow. But what was the cow? The cow was a god that they were worshiping in Egypt. So a cow just didn't come out. He took the gold and it came out as a cow. All right, so I just heard my audio drop. I hope it didn't drop on your side, but if it did, I was just saying that, Aaron threw the gold into the fire, melted it, and he said, out came a calf. A calf just didn't come out. An artificer had to form it into a calf. So he says, Hebrews 3:9, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years in the desert. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation and said, they do always err in their minds. They can't think straight. And they have not known my ways. So I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. See, going into the promised land there was their chance to rest. They had been in bondage in Egypt already, so they were going to rest. Take heed, brethren, lest there be any of you an evil heart. Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living Yehovah, the living Elohim, the living Adonai, the living El, the most high El of all Elohim. Okay? Think of the creator of the universe. I was having a conversation with someone today, because I'm always conversing. I have no other conversation. This is all I talk about. And again, saying to this person that God is a title and not the name. And this person railed on me about it. Well, I've been using God and it's been working for me. And I'm like, well, okay, but who's answering you? I mean, because every god out there has a name. Lucifer is a god to those who worship him, and they're called Luciferians, so they call on their god. That's his name. You're just saying God. Anybody can answer you. Just because you're saying God doesn't mean that the Most High God of the universe is answering you. There could be a God answering you, giving you things that you think they're coming from, our Father, and they may not be. I'm not saying that is what's happening. I'm just saying they may not be. If you know his name, you should use it. The scriptures say willful sin is loss of sacrifice. If you know someone comes along and teaches you something and shares something with you, you should have the mental fortitude to look at it at least and not just cast it away. Now, you could cast it away. That's okay. But I can tell you, this is a family member, so, family doesn't really want to listen to you half the time, right? So, then all of a sudden this thing about, lying spirits and false prophets came out of the mouth. And I'm like, what, you think I'm a lie? You think I have a lying spirit? You think I'm a false prophet? I mean, I could get that if I was teaching you something that was abstract about this word. But I'm giving you scriptures that line up and precepts that line up with the word. And all that shows me is that you don't know the word well enough to see that. So, I kind of, because I'm, like I said, this is a family member, so I'm reaching out, really hard. And I was getting railed on. I'm like, listen to how angry you're getting. I wasn't talking about you. I mean, it was like I had said something personal, like it was a personal affront. I'm like, I didn't say anything about you. I'm talking about the scriptures. Why are you getting so angry? I mean, she was really going at me. I mean, I was thinking to myself, wow, you could listen to, I could hear the heat in the verbiage and the speech. There was no expletives or anything, but you could tell it was really getting worked up. I'm like, do you pray that hard? I mean, that's like, when Messiah was in the garden and he was praying, he was, his sweat was like drops of blood. I mean, I'm like, do you dig in that hard when you're praying? I mean, 'cause you're really going after me right now. And so I'm like, okay, all right, it's all right. I see what's going on. I see something got you really worked up, but it's okay. I'm talking to you about these scriptures, and I was just talking about the name of the Father, the name of the Son, and the condition that the scriptures are in, and how we should be digging in deeper and learning them, because English just does not give us the proper understanding. So therefore, we need to learn the Hebrew. We need to know the name, because he said, "This is my name forever," and teach it to your generations from here going forward. So from here going forward. So that means that we're supposed to know this name. And that's what's in the scriptures, and that's what I was talking about. But I was getting railed on as if it wasn't there, and I said, "Well, have you read it?" "No, I haven't read it." "Then why are you railing on me if you haven't even read it?" It'd be different if you read it, and that's not what you got out of it, and you were pushing back. But you haven't even read it. "Well, this has been working for me, and I'm not going to change it." Okay, fine. I've been seeing God all my. Okay, you've been seeing God. That's fine. But God is not his name. God has a name, but God is not his name, if you want to go there. And then, in the middle of all of that, there was a video that was playing in the background, that was being played in the background. And the speaker said something. And when the speaker said what the speaker said, the revelation opened up in my mind, that then I understood. I said, oh, now I see why it's so hard for you. When the speaker opened it up, I was like, oh, okay, see, I've been there and I've done that. And denominationalism closes the door on all understanding. And once I heard, see that each denomination has certain buzzwords, right? When you hear those buzzwords, you can pretty much tell what denomination it is, because it's the buzzword of the denomination. And I never knew what the denomination was. I never asked what the denomination was. It didn't matter to me what the denomination was. I was just trying to share some word with a family member. But when the video played, and I had heard the teacher before, it just never, I don't know why, it never sank in. I never heard it, but today I heard it, just like a billboard went up. And I'm like, oh, now I see. Because I can't even say the word now. Denominationalism is all over it, and I see why the doors are closed, and why this word can't be received. So anyway, Hebrews 3:10. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. 3:12. Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief, denominationalism, in departing from the living Elohim. But exhort one another daily, while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. For we are made partakers of the Yeshua HaMashiach, and we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. While it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart or your mind, as in the provocation. For some, when they heard, did provoke, howbeit not all that came out of Egypt by Moses. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? Remember, Moses said, who is with me and the Most High God? Who's with me? Because when they lined up on Moses' side, he said, now go kill everybody else. And I think it was about 3,000 of them that fell that day, something like that. They went out, the sons of Aaron and Levites went out and smoked the rest of them, because they didn't line up. So if you're not going to line up, you're going to get burned up. See, those are the things that, see, if your gold has to be tried in the fire. The Levites were the fire. And if you didn't line up with them, you were going down. You were going up in smoke. So a lot of people, souls, left their bodies that day. They went up in smoke. Not saying they got burned. I'm just using that as an example. That their souls left their bodies. They went up in smoke. Had they lined up, even with a little bit of belief, the Levitical priesthood would have taught them. You have to have a desire and a want to learn. So, 3:17. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Who was he grieved? Who was he grieved by? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? And to whom sware he that they should not enter into his rest? But to them that believe not? So we see that they could not enter because of unbelief. See, the scriptures even says, and I've been talking about this, that the righteous are going to scarcely make it in. So if the righteous are going to scarcely make it in, and I had a Bible one time, it was like in plain English or what have you, and it used the term that they're going to make it in by the skin of their teeth. And I hit the floor. I was bawling like a baby, and I was crying. I was like, Father, that counts me because there's no skin on my teeth, And so, even though I know that was it helped. That helped get me there. I know better now, but that helped get me there. And once I understood that there was no skin on my teeth, it drew me closer. I know that it doesn't say there's the skin of the teeth. It's the righteous are going to scarcely make it in. But when I was 19 years old, that put me on the floor and had me praying because I understood. And my neighbor heard me crying in my apartment, in my living room, came over banging on the door. Man, what's going on? What's going on? And I was like, Cliff, I just read this, man, and I read it to him, and then we were both on our knees on my living room floor crying like babies. But you see, that's what the word. See, and even though, and I'm going back to this again. See, it loses its power, right? Because it's not in Hebrew, but because I had a willingness to seek the Father, and with all my heart and soul, I was really trying to seek the Father, that He was able to come in His Spirit and bring even that through to me, even though it wasn't the proper verbiage. Because it was ministering to my spirit, ministering to my soul, even though it wasn't. So I know better now, and I've learned better now. But, I'll never forget that. When the Father always points to that, remember when. And that wasn't the first time He had me slayed like that. Remember when. He just had me like that a couple days ago, but remember when. And so I try to stay in a position where I can be touched like that. I don't ever want to be so hard that the Father can't reach out to me. I cherish every spanking I get. I don't like them, but I know that because He loves me, He's gonna chastise me when I get out of line. There's people out here running wild that He's not touching, and those are the ones that I pray for. I pray for mercy, because when He does touch them, it may cost them their life. I mean, it might cost them their soul. So when I say their life, I mean their soul. Like they're gonna, as in never existed anymore. Soul. And that's a scary when you're in the hands of that type of a creator. I mean, He's not playing. People are out here just living like whatever. He's not playing. In Second Esdras, when I read what happens to the soul after it leaves the body, he was asking the angel. He was like, "Well, man, what about all of these people? Eve, what did you do to us? When you committed this sin? Wow, I mean, what's the point if we know we're gonna die?" And the angel said, I'm not gonna care about those souls. because the time for caring is now. The time for my love and your repentance, all of that is now. Because when I turn that off, then it's judgment. And all it's going to be is judgment. And then people are going to be running like, wait, but you said you love me. He's, oh, the time in love is over. It's punishment now. You know how it is when daddy come home. You was playing around and playing around and playing around and playing around, and you thought you weren't going to get your butt touched. Well, when dad turned off the love, it was time for punishment. But daddy, wait. Ain't no daddy wait now. Pulling pants down and come here. He pulling off the belt the whole time. Come here. It's time for daddy. It's time for daddy now. Ain't no, I mean, I love you. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm doing this. See, and the Father is saying the same thing. You know, I'm not willing that any should perish. And I love you even while I'm smoking you forever out. I love you. Goodbye. I love you. I gave you all the chances in the world. You hung yourself with the rope I gave you, you know, and now I'm going to show you how much I love you. I love you to the end. Bye-bye. But this rest over here is made for them. They're the ones who kept the covenant. You know, he says, I'm not going to care about, go read it for yourself. I'm not going to care about all of those who die. I'm only going to rejoice in the few that made it. My joy is going to be in the few that made it. Because in 2 Ezra 7:21, the Father says, the angel tells Ezra right there, look, every soul that comes into this body, before it gets in the body, the Father tells it what it needs to do to make it home. Okay? Before it gets in the body, before you got put into your body, the Father told you what you needed to do in order to get back to Him. To make it home and miss purgatory, miss judgment, everybody's going to hit judgment, but to miss death and not end up in a lake of fire. It says it right there. Read it. It says it right there. Every soul, before it got put into the body, here we go. Every soul, before it got put into the body, was told what to do in order to make it home. Okay? So there's no excuse. You have no excuse. Once you start reading and studying these scriptures, you're going to come across that. What we have to do in this life and in this world is figure out the path. Back in the day, this was called the way. And so we have to figure out the way to get home. Okay? And this is how we get home. Hebrews 4:1. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest, and any of you should seem to come short of it. Does that make sense? Let me say it again. Let us therefore fear. Let us be afraid that we might miss it. Let us get our heads together and search this thing out and study this thing and try to figure it out just so that we don't miss it. That's a paraphrase, but that's what's being said right there. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. Okay? For unto us was this gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. You got to have faith. You hear the word, and then you take that word. We walk by faith and not by sight. We take this word and we start strolling with it by faith. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, they shall sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. This was already created, already said, already done when the world was created. All you have to do now is complete the work. As I said, before you entered into your body, you were told what to do. From the foundation of the world, you were told what to do. When you get in that body, this is how you make it back. Reminds me of that movie Gabriel. I think it was Gabriel. I forget. I did a video on it. I forget which one it was, but it was the one on Remember the Fallen Angels. That is, you can find that one on YouTube. Remember the Fallen, and in that video, I was talking about all the movies that they made about fallen angels. In this one in particular, where he was the last angel to fall or to come to Earth to save mankind. Okay, and he almost failed because everyone that had come before him, even his ark who taught him, they were called arks in that movie. I think it was Gabriel. I have to go back and watch it myself again. But they were called arks, and he got into a position where he almost lost, and so he had to do a Christ move in order to save everybody. He had to die. It's one of those. But anyway, they have a lot of these movies. They put these out in front of your face for you to see it, and you have to watch. You have to look past the entertainment to pick up the messages, because they're telling you exactly what's going on in the movies. You just have to look past the entertainment and don't look at it as entertainment. A lot of people do. I don't watch movies like that. And I don't know when the Father flipped the script for me, but there was a time when all of a sudden that's the only way I could see a movie. I would sit down and watch a movie, and the spiritual would jump off the screen. And people would be like, "Whoa, did you see that?" And I'm like, "Well, no, did you see that?" And they would, "What are you talking about?" And I would explain stuff to them. I didn't. I didn't get that out of that. And I started thinking, well, Father, why are you letting me see this and nobody else is seeing it? Because the stuff that they saw didn't even register with me. I started seeing spiritual things. Okay, so Hebrews 4:2, for unto us was the gospel preached, as well as to them, but the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. 4:3, for we, which have believed, do enter into rest, as he said, and I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day on this wise. Or he spake in a certain place about because the rest is the seventh day, the Sabbath. He spake in a certain place like this. On this wise means like this. And God did rest the seventh day from all his works. So where was that? That was in Genesis. A certain place was in Genesis. He spake like this. He talked about it like this. And God did rest the seventh day from all his works. So that was in Genesis. Because the Elohim was doing the work, right? The Elohim said, let us make man in our image. And 6-day creation was going on during that time. So at the end of the 6th day, on the 7th day, God, the Elohim, rested. So he's talking about where that was spoken of in a certain place. That's that precept. Okay? And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest. So that's another place where it was being spoken about the Sabbath. Sabbath is the rest. Okay? Hebrews 4:6. Seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached entered not because of unbelief. So the people who heard it first, or the individuals who heard it first, didn't enter in because of their unbelief. So the coming out of Egypt, going into the land of milk and honey, that was their rest. They didn't go in because of their unbelief. They wanted to carry in the gods of Egypt. Okay? Again, he limited a certain day, saying to David, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if you will hear my voice, harden not your hearts. Don't harden your mind. Don't block it in your mind. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. For if Yeshua had given them rest, then would he not afterward have spoken of another day? So if he had already given them rest, after he gave them rest, he would not have spoke of another day. He wouldn't be speaking of that day if he had already given it to them. There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of the Most High. We haven't gotten that rest yet. Okay? Hebrews 4:10. For he that is entered into his rest, he also has ceased from his own works, as the Most High did from his. So we see that on the seventh day, Elohim rested. Yehovah rested. And the whole council that was creating with him rested. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. So we want to press our way in. We want to continue to work to get into that rest, because Matthew 24, the other precept to this, says that he that shall endure until the end shall be saved. And we just read that earlier in this passage. So we have to work for this. This is not something that's given to you. Lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. Now, I'm pressing through this because I am getting a little tired, but I am pressing through this. And excuse me if I'm starting to yawn on you, but it's like 2:20 in the morning for me. And I wanted to continue through this. I didn't want to go to sleep without getting through this, okay? For the word of Yehovah is quick and powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and the joints and the marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the mind. Okay? Because the mind thinks, and the mind has intents. Your heart is just a muscle. It doesn't know anything. Okay, so we have to look at how this is being translated out of this Greek. The Greek is pretty specific. They have certain words for certain things. But when we look at this in English, it changes things around. The same way when we read the Tefillah Yehovah, you know, as I was reading it to you earlier, it didn't read like it does, or we've been taught in English. Okay, so when you're reading things, you know, does the heart have thoughts? Does the heart think? No, it doesn't. Your thoughts come out of here. They don't come out of here. This is pumping blood. This is thinking. Okay? This is telling this when to pump. If this stops pumping, this stops thinking, and then you leave. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open to his eyes, and to the eyes of him with whom we have to do. Okay? Open to what? To the eyes of him with whom it's open to the Father. He's the one watching. He's the one we're connected to. So anything and everything we do, everything's naked to him. It's his eyes watching us. He's the one we're connected to. Seeing then that we have a high priest, we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Yehoshua, the son of Yehovah, let us hold fast our profession. What's your profession? That's not your, no, it's not your baseball. It's not your skill level. It's not your baseball. You're not a baseball professional. You're not a professional dentist. You're not no. Your profession is this. You profess this life we live. We profess this and confess this to the world. This is our profession. Okay? Hold fast to this, because this is your faith. You don't want to let this go, because then you're going to miss it. Okay? For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities. He can be touched with the feeling of our infirmities because he lived as a human, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. He lived as a human. So it's saying that he can't be touched with the feeling of our infirmities. He can be touched because he was God in man, called the Son of Man. So he was stepped out of glory and came into, just like we did. We came out of the spirit realm and we were put into these vessels. In order to be able to be our Messiah, because we are his, he had to come into this vessel so that he could also be a partaker of flesh in order to rule the flesh. This way, Satan doesn't get a chance to say, what do you can't even, you don't know anything about this flesh. But because all of these demoniacs came into the flesh to corrupt the line that he was supposed to come down, he had to come into the line in order to straighten it out again. To give mankind, fleshly man, a way back to the Father and bridge that gap. And bridge that gap he did. But we've got to stay faithful going through this thing so that we can get to the other side. Just like he did, but he endured a whole lot more than we did, and that we're enduring. So he came and he took like the most major, massive piece of it that anyone could ever bear, and he walked away with that and says, now, it's done. Because they can't do it. I did it for them. Now all they got to do is just believe and make it to me. They just got to believe they can cross that bridge and come on across the bridge. I got you. You can come across the bridge. Because I built the bridge as I was crossing it. There was no bridge there. I built it as I was crossing it. Figure that one out. And now it's there. You can come across. Come on. You just got to believe that you can. Come on. The enemy is on both sides, roaring like a lion, threatening to get you, but I got you. Come on across. You just got to believe you can. And a lot of people are looking at it. You see that? They got this bridge in China with a glass floor over this huge gorge. And people cannot, they're screaming and crying and, ah! And, they're being drugged out there in the whole night because there's no bottom. They can see the 1,000, 2,000 feet below them, and they're screaming and crying. And Yehoshua was saying the same thing. It looks like you can't make it, but you can. It looks like that gulf is going to consume you. But it's not. I got you. Come on. And those people who have no faith won't even come across the bridge. No, I've been living for Jesus over here all this time. I ain't crossing that bridge. I'm going to live for Jesus right over here. I ain't going over there. Fine. Fine. He got a place for you. Okay. Let us therefore come boldly across the bridge. Come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Okay? Let's see. Did I get where I wanted to go? I did. I did make it there. Okay. So that's what I wanted to talk about, family. That rest is our Shabbat. That rest is where we're supposed to be today. And I've done everything that I needed to get done yesterday before noon 01. So that at noon 01, I can start resting. And at noon 01, I wasn't doing anything. I was putting a keyboard back in my laptop, screwing that down. Little things. Talking to someone about Word, had made myself a nice big salad, to eat. Was reading some more Word, was digging into some of these fantastic Yeshua, his Hebrew Israelite scriptures that I love. I have the PDFs. I'm going to get the book. And that's how I can support them and that beautiful family is, by, and we should all start grabbing these books because the man has done a great work by taking the 1611 and putting back the names and things like that, helping us understand and reading the concordance and the apocrypha You know, it changes things. I have a Strong's, you know, and when I look at the two side by side, I'm like, wow. You know, but it does help my understanding because I'm able to see more in depth. You know, um, when someone else tells you about your culture that doesn't know, okay, how do I say this? I can't trust a Caucasian man to tell me about how to pick out my afro. He's never had an afro. And that's not taking anything away from the Caucasian man. I'm just saying the afro is not your, it's not, that's not your thing. Okay? Now, you can learn how to pick out an afro, but how are you going to tell me how to pick out my afro? You know, if you're not a scientist and you take my hair and you look at it under a microscope and you might say, oh, they need vitamin E for their hair. I can see you doing that. I can see you doing that. But in our culture, we have people who know exactly what we need for our hair. And they didn't have to put that under a microscope. So, you know, it's difficult. I can't tell you how to Billy Bob. How can you tell me how to Pretty Ricky and them? That's what I'm saying. I can't tell you how to Billy Bob. I don't know how to do the hillbilly. Right? So you can't tell me how to do the Pretty Ricky and them. There's a way that this is done. There's a culture behind this. And there's a people who have stolen that and they're doing what they think the culture is. And then we have people who have followed behind them. And then we have others who are actually trying to discover, you know, using that as an example and as a model and then jumping off of that to figure out what really the culture was. That's who I'm looking at. You know, I mean, because we have to start somewhere. So apparently you got enough knowledge to fake it. Let's get the knowledge that you got to fake it. Then we'll take that. They'll take that and we'll go find out what's real. And there's people who are doing that, and that's who I'm kicking it with. That's who I'm trying to kick it with. The ones who are taking that knowledge and then go find out what is real instead of staying right there with that knowledge that they got because it's not real. They're faking it. We want the real thing. Okay? So, family, I thank you for hanging out with me. It's been a fantastic ride, hasn't it? It's been cool. So this is Tefillah Yehovah, those wonderful 4 chords that I've been playing with. And we're going to put the lyrics on this later. I'm not quite done with the arrangement, but I do like the way that the organs and the strings and the pianos play together. And I just put a simple little drum groove on it, but that's not the groove I want on it. I'll actually sit over there and play them when I start to nail this thing down more and more and more. But we'll be singing Our Father, whom art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in heaven as is on earth. Let kingdom come is what it says. So, anyway, Mishpachah, thank you so much. Have a great morning. Have a great evening. And just relax in this rest. And this rest is the rest we really want to make it to. His rest. That final eternal rest. Where we don't have to deal with this mess anymore. But we've actually made it and crossed over. We've got to press all the way in because the scripture says that the righteous are going to scarcely make it. So let's make sure that we keep pressing so that we scarcely make it. Because the righteous are going to scarcely make it. So let's keep pressing. Let's keep pressing. Good morning and shalom. Or good evening wherever you are, and shalom. However it is for you, shalom, family.